what we're going to talk about today, the first lesson here. Now, first let me say that the vocal course is 9 parts. And it's very wordy, I will admit. One of the things I'd like to do over the course of the next several months perhaps is to go through and maybe tweak it here, cut it down a little bit, make it a little bit more user-friendly. But I would encourage you, as it is, to read everything. But remember this, it's 9 topics, and none of these topics exist in a vacuum. Every element of singing affects all the other elements. Breath is affected by placement. Articulation or diction affects the way we resonate a sound. So nothing exists in a vacuum. And there is no substitute for lessons with a really good qualified teacher. And this is for all of us. Occasionally, I go back to State College and take lessons with one of my teachers, Dr. Susan Boardman, who was the head of the opera department at Penn State. And I do that because every now and then, little strange things creep into our singing, and it's good to have somebody objective standing back listening and saying, hey, did you know you were doing this? Or did you know this wasn't quite right? And it's nice to have that so that you are really aware of what's going on. Again, we hear ourselves from within, which is why, of course, when we hear ourselves on a recording and we listen to it, it's always very puzzling. That's me, So that's why it's a very good thing to have somebody outside, objective, listen to you and critique you, somebody qualified. So there's no substitute for that. Now, the topic we're supposed to cover right now is articulation, the essentials of singer's diction. Diction is how we pronounce a word. And for students who are going through music school learning to be singers, they often have to take 4 or 5 semester-long courses on singer's diction. Usually one for every one of the major languages. And including, believe it or not, English, because singing English and speaking English are 2 separate things. And all of us have little idiosyncrasies in the way we speak. We have little accents or dialects. And our task when we sing in church is to minimize that, to use a more standard way of speaking. Okay, standard English diction, we call it. So diction or articulation is a very important subject. If you look at the first page there, I'm not going to read everything to you. Singers are distinguished from other musicians in that their range of artistic expression includes the beauty of language. Specifically, in the case of a cantor, that language is the language of prayer. So singing words, rather than speaking them, present special challenges. Vowels are given a specific pitch and sustained according to the rhythmic requirements of the music. Although we strive to sing emotionally in the same way we speak, musical expression extends far beyond the spoken or written sounds and meanings. Now this is the last paragraph I'm going to read because this is the important one. Everyday speech, particularly among Americans, tends to be quite imprecise and varies with regional differences, accents, and dialects. When speech habits are carried into chant, flaws are magnified. Impure vowel sounds and unclear consonants become evident, often making it difficult to understand the words. And this is very true. Now, in addition to making ourselves clear, diction has an effect on the placement of the sound or the resonance of the sound. Okay, and we're going to take some specific examples here. First, as with all singing, and those of you who've had private lessons with me for the past couple of days will attest, the first thing we must do is to release all the tension in our jaw our tongue, our neck, and feel open. And I'm not talking about opening here, not this. Okay? I'm talking about a sense of space in the back of the throat. Now, we don't want to sing from the throat, but the throat is still the principal resonating chamber of the voice, so it must be relaxed and open to assist the sound to resonate. So always, every time you sing, you want to feel like the whole time that you're stifling a yawn. A yawn is wonderful, and I bet if I stood up here and did this enough, a couple of you might even start to yawn. Okay? The yawn opens this up, okay? And I want you to think of a big O sound. Everybody say, oh. Okay, now when you do that O, put your tongue right against the back of your teeth. Don't let your tongue drift back. Right against your teeth here. And just let it lay there and do nothing. And now say, oh. Oh. Right. We want that kind of space. Like I could park a bus back here. Okay? That big of a space. Always open. Okay? Now, we talk about the function of different letters. Vowels carry the tone, and consonants sometimes interrupt that tone. However, I'd like to modify that a little bit, and I will in future manifestations of this course. I like a better example. A clothesline. A clothesline, that's the vowel. And the consonants are just the pins clipped to the line. Now the vowel or the line continues through the consonant. So we have to think of not only our vowels but also our consonants as having pitch and being part of the unbroken line. Now, some rules of articulation. I'm not going to go through this all because there's just a lot here. We talk about, first, consonants must be thought of the same pitch as the vowel they precede. Okay? Where is that important in the liturgy? Well, what do we sing over and over again? Lord have mercy. How many times have you heard somebody go, Lord? The L must be on the first pitch. Lord have mercy. When I sing that L, I'm thinking of that pitch. If I don't think of the pitch and I scoop into it, and we've all heard it, yeah, there it goes. So consonants must be thought of in the same pitch. Consonants should be articulated distinctly, freely, flexibly, rapidly, and as naturally and plainly as in dramatic speech. Articulate the proper sound of each consonant. Do not substitute one for another. Make vowels long, consonants short. In other words, let's boil it down. A singer dwells on the vowel sounds and then articulates the consonants quickly and moves on. Now I give some examples here of voiced and unvoiced consonants. And the reason why I do this is just to make you aware of how these sounds are made. V and F are the same thing. Think about it. I don't use my voice on the F, but I use it with the V. But it's the same mouth. G and K. G. G. Everybody say G. And now, same thing. The G is voiced, the K is unvoiced. So it's important every now and then to stop and examine how are these sounds made. And am I making them, in the most natural way I can? Now, one of the things I'm going to harp about is the next paragraph at the top of the page. Mary's got a great big grin on her face, because we've been talking about this in her private lessons. The letter R. There is no more awful sound in all of language than the American R. Okay, not only is it a bad sound, it closes the throat. Everybody say R.
R.
Where do you feel inside here?
The back of your throat.
Bit of a growl.
Okay, it's in the back, but what do you feel happening to your tongue? Say it again.
R.
Where's-
It's up.
It's up. Your tongue goes up, and now it's in the way. It's blocking the throat. Okay, so the letter R is closes us up. And this is especially important in sacred music. Why? Lord, ever. Those two words specifically are everywhere. Or mercy. How many times do we have Lord have mercy? You've heard it, I know you have. So what must we do with that American R? We must banish it. So, as I tell all Byzantine Catholics, I want you to sound like you are communicating members of the Protestant Church of England. Lord have mercy. We're taking out the R's. Lord have mercy, mercy. So we're replacing that. Now, when you say it, it sounds perfectly hoity-toity. But when you sing it, it sounds fine. Lord have mercy. Now contrast that with Lord have mercy. Sticks out, doesn't it? Closes me off. Makes my tone sharper and more throaty immediately. So, when the letter R is at the beginning of a word, get over it. Just say R and keep going. What's a word that would begin with an R that we would use?
Receive. Repose.
Receive. Thank you. Thank you. Receive. Receive. Immediately. Boom. I'm off of it. When it's at the beginning of the word, articulate it, move on. When it's in the middle or at the end, as in words Lord and ever, replace it with a W or UH sound. Or I have it also as AW, Lord and ever, Lord and ever. This is necessary to avoid closing off the throat and producing the pirate roar, R. Okay, modified R's allow you to stay open. That's what we want. Always open. Always err on the side of open when you sing. Creates a more pleasing tone. There's one exception. The word spirit. With the R in the middle, it's best to flick it like the British do. Spirit. Spirit. Now, it will not sound goofy. People will not think you're being strange when you do these things if you practice them and really learn to do them well. They'll just think, my, what a lovely tone. They're not going to notice that you're doing anything different. So, watch that letter R. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is something that's unique to English. Something called a diphthong. Diphthongs do not occur in any other language. Most languages have very pure vowels, but diphthongs are two-part vowels. And an example would be night, day. Okay, there's two. There's some others here. I'm, mine, no. So there's two sounds to some of these vowels. And even in English we have something called a triphthong. Three sounds. House. Ha, u, us. House. Okay, that's what linguists would call a triphthong, three-part vowel. Now, but for diphthongs, those are the most common, you want to dwell on the first part, throw the second part away. I would never sing night, day. You'll hear it though, especially popular music, the crooners. Night, day, it's just awful. Okay? What you want to do is night, day. And that second one, throw it away. It's 80-20 or more. 80% first part, 20 second part, or even more sometimes. So diphthongs, we call that turning a diphthong. And we want the second part to vanish. That's the vanishing sound. So
I'm sorry, real quick. What about like Alleluia? The last ya. Did you just go ya, just ya?
not iya, not alleluia, unless it's set to notes that do that.
Sorry, not Alleluia, Alleluia, but yeah.
Yeah, sometimes in musical settings you'll have alleluia, you know, in some strange Latin right things
Yeah.
I've heard. Yeah. Yeah. Most of the time it's just a ya, you know. Alleluia, alleluia. You just simply do it simply. That's not really a diphthong,
Yeah.
but it's similar.
But you're turning it to a ya instead of a ya.
Right, right. In fact, I guess it would be in a way because the ya sound, the letter Y starts with e, ya, like that. So there is two parts there. But here's some common examples. And I would like to do this little exercise. First thing we're going to do is we're just going to sing a little thing here, sol, mi, fa, re, do. So the ma, me, mi, mo, mo. Sing that. Ma, me, mi, mo, mo. Now those are all pretty clear, pure vowels. Ma, me, mi, mo, mo. Now, we're going to replace those with this. I am glad I'm here. Sing that. I am glad I'm here. Yes, and you all did that very well. You stayed on the first part, excuse me, and you threw the second part away. I sing very well. I sing very well. Now, we're going to do what we do with spirit. Very well. Did you hear me flick it?
Yes.
Who can flick their R's? Can you all flick your R's? Can you go, very,
Very.
very? Can everybody do that? Some people, we don't do it
I
in
can do it
English.
very well.
Yeah, with some people have real trouble with that because we don't do it in American English. The Brits do. Do the Irish do that a lot? Do you? Not really? No. But I've listened to some British opera singers sing English and they roll every R. But that little flick, listen to the difference. Very, very, no, very. It still sounds like very, but I'm getting that little bit of American R out of my way. Now, I sing with my friends.
I sing with my friends.
Good, now I heard somebody go my a little bit, okay? My friends. I sing with my friends. The E part is sliding into the last word. I sing with my friends. It's sliding into the last word like that. So these are diphthongs, and it's important to know how to turn them well. Now, our vowels. Now, here's one. Our is a word that does show up. Listen. We can sing our vowels. Our vowels. Where does that word come up prominently? Challenge you. Where does that word come up in the liturgy prominently? Our, O-U-R.
Our Father.
Oh, our Father, but an even more pronounced one,
Would it be in the liturgy of the hours?
well, no, no, where is it? The acclamation. Let me see. And we pray to you, our God. Now, how many people do you sing, our God? It's not our God, it's our God. Okay, so you gotta throw that second part away. It's not our God, it's our God. Like
Do you
that.
still have the R in there, man? Or are you flicking it?
Our. That one I'm using the U. Listen to me do it again. Our God. Yep. No, you're putting our God. I don't want that word on the last note. I'm going through the last, there's 4 notes there before I get to God. If you want to follow along, it's page 59. I'm waiting till the end of the last note, the end of the 4th note, to put that little thing in. Our God. Right. You hear people do our God.
Can you do it the right way again?
Our God. So I'm going all the way to the end of that 4th note, and then I'm putting that in right next to the word God, right up against it, like that. Okay? So diphthongs do occur. And there's a little chart there of the diphthongs. Some exercises for articulation. This one, 7.4. This exercise not only is just a nice exercise for articulating, but it actually highlights the principal articulators, the body parts that articulate speech. The lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. Those are the articulators in speech. The jaw is not an articulator. Do not articulate with your jaw. The jaw is merely a conveyance for the lips and the teeth. The jaw is always released and relaxed. Those of you who've been here a couple of days, you know I've talked about this kind of total slackness of the jaw. It's really important. Tension in the jaw is insidious. Everything here is connected. You have tension in your jaw, it goes down your neck, it eventually grabs your voice box. So, same way with your tongue. Your tongue is a powerful muscle. It's a very, very big, powerful muscle. And if you are holding tension in your mouth, in your tongue, it's going to affect your voice. That's why I say when you don't need your tongue, when you're done articulating, your tongue goes back down here, sits against the back of the teeth, and does nothing. Okay? That's what it does. It does nothing. Once you say like the Lord, Lord, I start with my tongue up for the L, Lord, and then it snaps back down to its default position and just stays there. Doesn't do a thing. Okay? So as you can see, language affects our tone. It affects the way we sing a line, which we always talk about singing legato for singers, which is that smooth, unbroken line. So articulation or diction really affects all of it. It's not a minor thing. And I would really encourage you to go through, look at these exercises, say these words. You don't have to sing, like for instance, the diphthong things. You can just say, I am glad I'm here. You can just speak it in an elongated way. But notice how you're turning it. Notice how you're turning the diphthong. Make sure you're not turning early onto the second part of the sound. So, is there anything right now that anybody would like to ask after hearing me say all that? So, again, remember, if you look at this vocal course, you might look at lesson 8, you might go back and look at lesson 4. It's not meant to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're going to be referring back and forth. And in fact, there are sections in here where I'll say, refer back to this lesson for more on this topic. Okay. Now, again, it's a lot of information, and it's good information, but I would encourage you, there's no substitute for, again, taking a few lessons. You don't have to commit to 10 years with a teacher. You can go and take 6 months of lessons. But look for a good professional teacher, National Association of Teachers of Singing, that's lesson 9. You'll see all this stuff in lesson 9. Your local college or university music department, other churches in the area that employ professional musicians. Go talk to them. Show them what you do. In fact, we're not going to get to it, but there's with lesson 9, which I call the case for professional instruction, there's a little letter attached to that you can print out and give to a voice teacher that explains why you're there, what you need to accomplish. And that would be a very helpful thing to have. And then, of course, I suggest taking your green book right along with you and working on that music in the lessons. So, look for a teacher if you can, and even for a short period, you'll see that it's really very helpful. The other part of that is, in the letter to the teacher, is the idea of learning solfeggio. I am an evangelist for solfeggio. Movable do. There's 2 systems. There's another system called fixed do. We don't use that here. Movable do means no matter what key you're in, do moves with you. Okay? And that's a much more practical system than I think fixed do. I mean, you're a music educator. Were you a Kadai baby? You didn't learn Kadai?
I know it,
Okay.
but I didn't work with it much.
Yeah, there was a composer and musicologist, Zoltan Kodaly, who put together a method for teaching music, and he was very reliant on solfeggio, movable do. And it's transformative. All my voice students in private lessons spend time, every lesson on solfeggio. It's that important, and it's transformative. So, any questions?
I just had a question. It's just more related to quality of sound. About on the Theta music trainer.
Mm-hmm.
What is the thing that makes it was really hard for me if it switched instruments. Like if you kept it in one instrument, it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But like let's say it goes from the piano and then it jumps to the xylophone.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden I would find myself like I don't know if that's higher or lower.
Yes.
I was just what's that quality of what is that called?
Well, there's a word, it looks like timbre. It's T-I-M-B-R-E, it's timbre.
Oh.
And every instrument and every voice has a different timbre, a different quality of sound.
Okay.
So, yes, even for me, my first instrument is the piano. You can't fool me with it. If a piano's in tune, you can't fool me with it. I know exactly what's being played. Now, you might be able to fool me if you play a note on a clarinet or on a flute, but you can't fool me with piano because I'm so attuned to that sound. I mean, I've been playing the piano for 45 years. So, yes, to answer your question, it takes a little time to get used to the shift in instruments on that Theta music trainer. So just be patient with it. Eventually you will. I would encourage you to keep doing it because every voice has a different timbre. So if you can pick out notes from one instrument to the next, you're going to find it a little bit easier picking out notes from various singers.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Any other questions?
Not a question, but a comment.
Yes.
When I was a child, and I'd go to church with my father. Before we would go in the morning, he went through the ma, mi, me, mo.
Yeah.
And I would think, and he would make a game out of it. But what you just told me just made it all fall together.
Good.
But if he had said that to me back then, I wouldn't have thought it was a game. It would have made sense to me, but then I was a child.
Right.
But it's very, very interesting how I just was able to go back to that moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, he warmed up before
Yes.
church.
Yes, he did.
You two heard me go on and on about warm up before going to sing.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Jumping
not just
jacks.
walk in,
Mm-hmm.
open your green book and start singing. Warm up. It's important. You're like an athlete. An athlete has to warm up before competition. You're an athlete. You need to warm up before you get in there. And think about it. Most of us are singing at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. You've got a whole bunch of unpleasant stuff going on in there at that time of morning that you need to get rid of. And you just need to wake up the voice and wake up your ears. So get up at least 2 hours before liturgy. Give yourself at least 10-15 minutes to warm up. If you have no other time to do it, then do it in the car on the way to church. But warm up, that's very, very important. And we'll do some warming up in your private sessions as we do that. Any other observations, questions, or anything? Okay, well, I think I've wrung the subject of articulation dry. We'll talk about it individually, but I think we're going to take a break. Let me see.